Hello, hello, and welcome to your NARSA Weekly Update for the week commencing Monday, the 17th of November, 2025. Halfway through the month already. How did that even happen? It's Gary here again, and I've got a bit of a different podcast for you this week. I am absolutely delighted to have a guest accompanying me, and as far as I can remember, this is maybe just the third time that I've done this in, 253 episodes, so it's a big deal for me and hopefully a big deal for you. I have the NARSA President, Mr. Alan McWatt, joining me today. Alan, how are you doing, my friend?
Good, Gary. Good to catch up with you, and thanks very much for the welcome, the introduction.
Yeah, delighted to have you along. And we do have one of the main reasons that we have Alan here today is he's going to give us some important information about the location property that we are going to in Nashville, Tennessee in June 2026. So this will be everyone's cue to just fast forward to that part, but just please keep listening because we make a bit of an effort to get this podcast on for you, and I'll bring Alan into the conversation as we're going on. So I need to start on a wee bit of a downer. No doubt you will have, well, not a downer, actually, just on a little bit of a lecture or a rant here. No doubt you'll have seen or at least heard of the VAR Review show, which is monthly Sky Sports show that is put on by, I don't even know what its title is, but Willie Collum does that with one of the guys from Sky Sports. And it was their review of the games in the past month that had a wee bit of controversy in and around some of the refereeing decisions. And you know what? Willie had one of two paths that was open to him in terms of the Aaron Trusty kicking Jack Butland on the head scenario, and one was admitting yet another mistake by one of their referees, and the other one was doubling down on the on-field decision not to send him off and just to give Trusty a yellow card. And he chose the latter by suggesting that the kick in the head merited a yellow card only, despite pretty much all of his words leading up to that point, being an admission that it should have been and it could have been the most red of red cards. And I was chatting with some guys over text over the weekend here, Alan, and I was saying to them, I genuinely understand that Willie Collum is between a rock and a hard place here. And if you admit another mistake, then we're going to go, well, what are you going to do about it? If they try and double down, we're going to go, you guys are the most incompetent. Either way, they're not fit for purpose. So I understand the difficulty here, but I was always taught when I was growing up, and certainly I always try and live this path right now and tell Leo to do the same. If you're faced with a difficult decision, and even if there's negative implications that come from both paths on that negative decision, you just choose what's right. You just choose the path that is absolutely right. And it's as simple as that. If you kick someone in the head in a football game, intentional or otherwise, whether it was ferocious or whether it was just a tap, that's a red card in every single league, in every single country, in the entire, well, obviously not every single country, I should caveat that, in the entire world. So yet again, you've got the SFA embarrassing themselves, the SFA disgracing themselves, and the game. I mean, this is our flagship game. This is our showpiece game that's showed and has interest around the entire world, and they have an opportunity to do something that's right, and they just don't take it. And I hope this particular incident, and I think I've said this on previous podcasts, this particular incident will be a catalyst for some sort of positive change, because I've mentioned over the last couple of weeks here, maybe even the last month or so, that something's going to happen here. Some player is going to get really, really injured because it's becoming a bit of a well-kent thing, as you could say back home, that you can do whatever you like to Rangers players, and the chances of any sort of retribution coming your way in game or even after the game is virtually nil. Someone's going to get seriously, seriously hurt here because of this, and I think it's disgusting, and I think it's a disgrace. So all of that said, Alan, what's your thoughts?
I think you're spot on. I honestly watched the show. It was on Sky on Friday.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. I absolutely couldn't believe it. I wasn't too sure if they were actually going to come out and admit the mistake on national television. but it was still really disappointing to hear the reason behind it. And then when you go through this instance that we've all seen about goals being chopped off, people getting sent off, Diamond up at Dundee United, same referee. It was really disappointing to see that. Pretty embarrassing, as you said as well.
Yeah, it's beyond a joke, and I know there's not a quick fix because they need referees, they need people to do that. But if there's no willingness to accept culpability, even if they come up with the same line and say, "Yep, we got it wrong, and this is what we're going to do about it," that's the best path. That's absolutely the best path, in my opinion. Anyway, you admit the wrongdoing, you say what you're going to do to fix it, and then you fix it, and then you move on. I don't have anything against any of the referees that we have involved in our games at all. I don't roll my eyes. I mean, there's the odd, fun bit of banter and stuff like that. But for me, it's genuinely not serious. I'm like, it doesn't matter who the referee is as long as they call a good game. But when they are involved in multiple incidents, they're not being held to account, they literally have zero incentive for change. None. If you're not getting held to account, whether it's public or private, and it just looks like it's an absolute, it's like the Wild West with the referees there, So I don't know what's going to happen. I know Kevin Thelwell talked about it in his interview, which I'll get to a wee bit later on here today. But yeah, not cool. In terms of what Gaz got wrong last week, this is the second week in a row I've had to do this. Whoa, I don't know what it is, but last week I did mention when we had Tom over from the Victoria Rangers Supporters Club visiting the Rangers Supporters Club of Calgary the week before. When I was talking about it, I got the destination wrong, so I got a text on the WhatsApp group saying, "Appreciate the shout out to Victoria RSC, Gary, but a wee bit of geography info for you. Victoria is located on Vancouver Island, not Victoria Island. I don't want people travelling to the Arctic to find our club." So in my head, I said Vancouver Island. Obviously, I said Victoria Island, so that is my bad, and I will make sure that I don't make that mistake again. Still great to see Tom. We did have a bit of communication earlier in the week, and Samantha was in the hospital actually delivering the baby at the time that he had messaged back. I haven't heard from him since, but I hope that baby and mum are doing absolutely great. In terms of the game segment, there was only international games this last week. And what I did, actually, I have to admit, I've often said on this podcast, I don't have any inclination or any real enthusiasm about the international games. But for this week, it's getting to the business end. So it's a wee bit more interesting and exciting when there's actually something to play for. So I did pay attention to the Scotland game there on the weekend, and I have to say it was a bit of an astonishing turn of events on the weekend. I watched it. I put the game on just before Greece scored their second, and then they scored their third kind of rapid, and I'm like, what am I even doing? Like, what have I got this on for? And I just kept it on in the background as I was working, and then all of a sudden they get the 2 goals back, and you're kind of, whoa! And they had enough chances. I mean, their goalie stood on his head, and the Greece goalie that is, and had an absolutely brilliant second half there. My understanding is Craig Gordon had an equally as good first half there. But the astonishing part is the result in Denmark means that we have basically a winner-takes-all situation going into the last game. And I'm sure if Steve Clarke and his management team had an opportunity at the very beginning of the campaign, which is a short campaign, it's only, 6 games, to be able to say, we're going to bring it down to the last game. If you win the last game at home to Denmark, you're going to qualify outright for the World Cup, knowing that we've already secured the playoff spot. I think everyone would have taken it. So, and I'm going to be an absolute bandwagoner here, and I admit that. I'm going to pick up a new car tomorrow. And I had originally set it for, what time did I set it for? Like 2:00 in the afternoon. And then after the game on the weekend and then the connotations of what's going to happen tomorrow, I texted the guy at the garage saying, look, any chance I could come and pick it up at 11 because Scotland are playing a big game. He's a big football fan. So I'm getting the car tomorrow at 11. The bandwagon army, I think we'll call ourselves. But one thing I have to admit, not to be a downer on this, regardless of how well Scotland do, regardless of how well they play, I don't know, it's obviously my mindset, Alan, but Steve Clarke he makes me sadder every time I look at him, even when he's celebrating or even when it looks like in some way he might be enjoying himself, and he makes following Scotland less enjoyable than it could and should be. But what's your overall take? Are you an international fan, Alan? And what's your overall take on where Scotland are at right now?
No, obviously, I want Scotland to do well, and it would be if they qualifying for the World Cup first time since 1998. But it's really difficult, right? When you hear the squads and you see who's playing, and it's really hard. Maybe more so because of the clubs that they're coming from. I seen a photograph of John Suter and Kieran Tierney walking it together, and they looked like they were smiling and having fun. And I find that really difficult to take. I can understand it's for the benefit of Scotland, but after seeing how Kieran Tierney behaves and thinking about him setting up a goal against us not that long ago, I should really get over it, but it's really difficult. But obviously, I do want Scotland to win. I do want them to qualify. I just wish we wouldn't see some people's faces or names on the back of the strips, and it might make it easier for them.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think from my perspective, that would be massive for Scotland, and a bunch of different reasons. One, that the Commonwealth Games are going to Glasgow next year, so to have them and the World Cup to look forward to would be great in terms of just for industry for Scotland. A lot of pubs and spaces and such like that will do a lot of really good business. Gives us something to look forward to, and as you know, which we'll get to talk about in a wee bit here, it's material for our planning for 2026. So there's a lot riding on this. What I do know is that the draw after this phase, and it comes before the playoff round, which is in March 2026. The draw for the World Cup is the 5th of December. So we won't know the absolute itinerary of everything that's going to lay itself out there until that time. But, we'll see what it looks like. In terms of back to Rangers, the next game we have, of course, is this weekend, back to league action, and we are at home. Actually, we've got 3 games at home to round off the month here, and European game aside, certainly 2 winnable games in the league. And the European, I would like to say it's about time we actually got a result there. Yes, it is. Our performances thus far haven't merited at all that, but we'll concentrate on Saturday's league game, and it is Saturday, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 3 p.m. kickoff on Saturday. Quite unusual to have that, and unfortunately, I'm teaching on Saturday all day, so I'm going to have to rush down to the club, get everything set up, rush back, teach my class, and then watch it a wee bit later on. Or I might give the class some time off in the morning. Who knows? We'll see. We'll see if we become pals on Friday or not. But in terms of shout outs for this week, not a lot on the go for shout outs. I would like to actually just kind of almost round off that particular part of the conversation and say good luck to Scotland tomorrow. Genuinely, seriously, good luck to Scotland. It's always good to see. When we were in the Euros there last year, it was like downtown here in Calgary, it was absolutely dynamite. Like there was almost not a table to be had, and it was just good atmosphere to hear all these fake Scottish people kind of coming out with their chewing the fat accents and their kilts and their beanies and all that sort of stuff. It was fun to see, but it's a good time, as I say, something to look forward to. Just another reminder of Amanda and Jason Jr. Ross, who are running the London Marathon in April in support of the Royal British Legion. And for one final time, I get to remind you of the Melbourne City Loyal Rangers Supporters Club Culture Weekend, which is this weekend. It is the 21st to the 22nd. It's with Ian Ferguson, Gary Stevens, Stuart Monroe, all the Australia boys there going. There's going to be a boat cruise with some Rangers songs from a Glasgow entertainer and a Saturday gala dinner, and no doubt no end of fun and hilarity. And I'll try and get a wee bit of a report on that before, or maybe not before next week's pod, maybe before the one after, because I imagine they're still probably recovering by the time I record this next week. But all the very, very best to the Melbourne City Loyal Rangers Supporters Club for this weekend. It seems like ages that I've been talking about that, so I'm glad to finally get that one on the books for this weekend. In terms of convention update, I can officially confirm that it is 205 days and 29 weeks. We're in the 20s now, Alan, until Nashville 2026. That is, of course, June the 11th to the 14th, as I mentioned before. It is the World Cup opening weekend, and actually the June the 11th is the first day of the World Cup. There's going to be 2 games that particular day. The format, property, line-up and such is what we're going to get into in a wee bit here and see where it goes. But before we get to that particular part, I just wanted to kind of bring Alan back into the conversation here. And this is going to be part of an opportunity to talk with everybody on the NARSA executive about their tenure and what they've been doing, even if they've been on the executive for quite some time. And Alan had what's the best word to use for it? A colourful start to his presidency. And we don't need to go over any old ground there, but the reason I mentioned this during the convention update is that the majority of your time, certainly recently of your time, Alan, has been spent on the convention stuff. But how has your first 4 or 5 months been in the role? Have you enjoyed it?
And in all honesty, Gary, it's been fantastic. I think we've got a really strong team now. Um, the the support from the whole team. So when you talk about shout outs, people like yourself and Brian who were instrumental to building that partnership with me in previous years when I was doing the various jobs that I had, and then more recently the TV. And then when I was nominated to be the president, and the support I got going through that process, it was fantastic. So I think long answer to your question, I remember you and I speaking maybe the week after or the day after, and some of the key actions. And like any leadership position, building the team is key. Otherwise, you've got 9 football players trying to play against 11. You need 11 people on the park. And I think bringing Dan and Stephen into the team was really important, really early on. So the support from Dan and Noel's involvement with the TV has been really helpful for me taking away a lot of those responsibilities. And Stephen, really excited because, like, the process that we go through. People applied, we spoke to them, engaging their level of interest, their experience. And Stephen's chapping at the bit to know about this hotel, and chapping at the bit so we can start doing more stuff on sponsorship in his role. So yeah, that was really key earlier on.
And both of the guys are incredibly nice men as well. Not to besmirch anyone who's ever been on executive before, but they're extraordinarily nice guys. So even if they end up doing a bit of a shitty job, we're going to be like, you know what, it's all right. They're nice. They're nice enough guys as well.
And I think that's important, Gary. Like, I know you know what I do for a living, but building a team and like working in HR,
Yeah,
no matter what job you've got, it's good to work with good people.
exactly.
And I think everyone in the team is making it relative, like, enjoyable rather than easy for me.
Yeah.
Because obviously there's a lot of stuff to be done, but no, it's been really good. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's magic. And you've also been embarking upon a bit of a supporters club engagement strategy as well. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So I think you spoke about it in your podcast probably a couple of months ago, not long after I took up the role,
Mhm.
and I really wanted to understand a lot more about the different clubs, the people in the clubs. Um, so I pulled together a questionnaire and intentionally decided not to share it in advance. So Gary Fleming and I have been on calls with a number of presidents and secretaries, just learning more about the clubs, about their membership, uh, what they enjoy being part of NARSA, where we can do things a little bit differently. I think what I've learned from that, most of the clubs have all the same challenges. The timings of the games, people, the reason behind being part of a club, but the reason why the memberships in certain clubs are diminishing. People are not getting together to watch the games because there's other ways that they can watch the games.
Yeah.
And just learning what we could do to make it more attractive to be part of NARSA rather than what's been going on.
Yeah. And it's not easy stuff to do. I'm delighted that you got on that right away, because it's something that's been on deck for a while, but we've done it more organically rather than methodically. And when you do it methodically, you actually capture everyone. I know you haven't spoken to everyone just yet, but that, when we were doing it, it would be more if someone's got a problem or an issue or a big pertinent question and such like that. So it's brilliant to be able to spend the time doing that and get the information back from that as well. And also some quite exciting stuff that you've been doing directly with Rangers.
Yeah, we just finished off on some of the discussions with the presidents and the secretaries, because Gary Fleming, who everybody knows is the vice president, so Gary's really been great helping me with that, and he's going to be working with the clubs that we've not spoke to. So for any clubs out there that we've not had the session yet, please feel free to reach out to me or Gary Fleming, and we'll get something scheduled, just to go through the same type of questions that we went through the previous ones. So now going back to your question on what's been going on with building relationships and meeting some people at Rangers. So you touched on back in August, I was back in the UK for a couple of weeks and managed to get to a couple of games, and I had a number of meetings with some individuals who work for the club. And one of the reasons being that was one, to introduce myself, learn a little bit more about them, as well as why should clubs be part of NARSA? What's the benefits of being part of NARSA? And I think one of the things that's came out of it is the Rangers charity ball.
Yeah.
And so managing to build a relationship with Alison back there. They kindly donated a couple of tickets, and then really pleased that Greg down in Orlando managed to take up the option and went back. So I was actually in Orlando a couple of weeks ago, so I met Greg down there, and it was really nice to meet with him, and really pleased that you could see some of the results of the communication and the collaboration that we've got going on. There's another couple of things that are bubbling away in the background of the benefits, whether it's the international schools, the football camps that are going on, and also it's really annoying me just now, probably like you and a number of folks who are members, is the cost to purchase Rangers merchandise just now and get it sent to us in North America. It's horrendous. I tried to buy something a couple of weeks ago, and I think the product was $80, but by the time I got to the add to your cart or buy, I thought it was like over $200, and I stopped. I never done it.
Yeah.
So I've raised that with some key folks back there and looking to see how we can get things like that addressed. Otherwise, they're going to lose all that merchandise opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot to it, a lot to the role, and a lot to really unpack there, just in terms of the stuff that's going on. And I guess all of that to say, if there's anything from a NARSA perspective that Alan and team, including myself, are not covering with Rangers or with your NARSA membership or the Rangers TV product or our communications, whatever it is, please don't hesitate ever to reach out. You can reach out to Colin Bowman from a communication perspective. That's narsacommunications@gmail.com. Myself, Rangers SCC @hotmail.com, or you can get other details on the NARSA website, narsa.ca, to be able to contact Alan directly or whomever else it is you need to speak to. It's a genuine open door policy. We're looking to make sure that we have the right type and style of information to be able to make the right type and style of decisions and take actions on behalf of our membership. Okay, I think we've delayed the great news as much as we possibly can, Alan, and it's now time to reveal. Well, I'll tell you a wee bit about the background here in terms of the work that Alan and Brian have been doing. Primarily Brian doing a lot of the legwork in Nashville, and a big shout out to Gary Cooper, who's down in Nashville, formerly of Rangers, the Rangers Supporters Club in Vancouver downtown. He's been a kind of boots on the ground guy for us down there as well. That looking at working with the local tourist board there, and then scouting out a number of properties that are both favourable in location and you know and obviously in pricing, and taking that information and then whittling it down, having conversations with hotels, and really looking at what the proposals and all that sort of stuff looks like. There's a lot of work, folks, that go in to that. So credit to Brian and Alan for really putting the boots on the ground and really, you know, leaning in hard to doing that work. And all of that culminated in an opportunity on Friday past there for Alan to sign a contract. And he's going to tell us a little bit more about where that contract is signed for.
So Gary, thanks again for that and providing some background. But I think when we looked at the work that Brian done, so first of all, communications, as you said, with the tourist board, and then the amount of emails from various hotels with proposals. And I think Brian was doing us a favour, but he was just flooding our inboxes with all these hotel proposals. And it was just like, I'm going to create a folder with hotels in Nashville, and it was like non-stop hotels in it. However, we're going to finally get to one or two choices. And as you said, like, we're not in Nashville.
Yeah.
We can't walk around the corner and see these hotels. And Brian got it down to a couple of hotels, and we had some discussions. We were on Google Maps following the street. Can you walk from this hotel downtown Nashville where Broadway is, or this hotel downtown? And you're right, Colin being down there was really helpful. And
Gary.
Gary, sorry. Gary giving us the GoPro. Hopefully it was on his head and he was driving safely around the streets of Nashville.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, to cut to the chase, we've identified the Cambria Hotel in Nashville. And before anybody asks me some tricky questions, or you do, is the Cambria Hotel in Midtown. So there's a number of Cambria hotels in the Nashville area, and they've been phenomenal, by the way, absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
They've been really responsive. A number of us went through the contract. We shared the contract with the executive. They had a number of questions. We went back with probably 10 more questions, or could you do this? Could you do that? Could we get this? Could we get that? And within an hour and a half, they responded again, yes, we can, yes, we can. So then I started thinking, maybe we should ask for more. Maybe we should have another 10 questions. But I think being reasonable and ethical and looking at what the hotel wants to do for us.
Yeah.
Right, and they're really excited. They were really open about the dates. Like you've touched on previous podcasts. We were looking to do the beginning of June, and we were reminded that's maybe not the smartest idea to do the beginning of June with a country festival going on.
Yeah.
But I think Nashville is just so excited to welcome us. Loads of bars and restaurants close by, loads of things to do. The hotel looks phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I think Gary down there he'll get maybe further on in the lobby this time than standing in the lobby with his GoPro showing us the lobby, and anybody can go on and see the website and see how nice a hotel is.
Yeah, and I'll put the link to the website there, of course, in the show notes, and the link to the booking. Now, what we've done in the contract, the initial contract that we've signed, is we've signed for 50 rooms only. When you go online to book it, it will ask for a credit card. It's not going to take a deposit, but it's going to take a hold on your credit card so that you can secure the room. For that, there was a wee bit of a situation last year where it literally took the deposit down in, this year, I guess I should say, for Kissimmee, and that was slightly different to an experience that people have had before, which is just one of these things that's dictated by the hotel. And if it looks like it's going to be super popular, we have an opportunity, but it has to be early to increase the room count, and then we'll see what the rest of it looks like. One thing that Alan failed to mention there, but you'll see quite quickly if you do a Google Maps of the area, it's a brand new hotel. It's literally brand new. There's a rooftop patio and a whole bunch of beautiful stuff there. It looks very, very sharp. And right next door to it is a liquor store. Or if you're back home, an off license. And here's the funky thing. Apparently, the hotel chain owns the liquor store, or they have a stake in the liquor store or something like that as well. So we kind of had a bit of banter with them during the conversations to say a wee bit of a discount in there wouldn't go amiss to give us more incentive to take that as well. So it's all shaping up to be absolutely brilliant. So once we get that organised, and this is one piece of the puzzle, folks, getting the hotel. Typically, we have a more robust contract because we're taking banqueting space, we're committing to food and beverage minimums and such like that, meeting spaces and whatnot. But as I've mentioned over the last wee while, we're having a different type and style of approach to this. This is going to be a little bit more casual, a little bit more informal of an event. As I mentioned at the top of the show today, we're going to wait and see what the itinerary looks like for the World Cup, because I imagine the majority of people will want to go and see, especially if Scotland make it, go and see the games. If they happen to be on that weekend, then we'll arrange an event around about that. We're in the early stages of understanding what the entertainment could and should look like. It might not all be on site. So while there'll absolutely be the main staple things in terms of the itinerary, we're going to kind of, would it be fair to say, Alan, we're going to kind of piecemeal it together as we go forward, the more information becomes available to us?
I think you've touched on a few key things there about Scotland qualifying for the World Cup, right? So if Scotland qualify for the World Cup, when's the games? Are they going to have games around that weekend? What are they going to do regarding that? And there's plenty of bars and restaurants and sports bars out with the hotel, out with the off-licensed liquor store area. That'll be more than happy to welcome a group of us to watch the football. So yeah, the Scotland qualified, but we've also been in discussions with some folks about providing some other events over the course of the weekend.
Yeah.
Nashville's famous for their tours. So a lot of history with music in that area. So we're wanting to make sure the folks that come and join us have got the opportunity to see a bit of Nashville as well as the camaraderie and hanging out together while watching some of the games that are going on.
Yeah, it's going to be a brilliant time. So not an insignificant amount of work has been put into this to get us to this spot. We're absolutely delighted to have the contract signed there at the end of last week. We'll get the link put on the show notes. We'll get that communicated out through our other regular channels. We'll start to monitor what that looks like. What I would say is, if you're definitely intending on going, please get it booked up as quickly as possible. And once the itinerary is known a wee bit more, which will hopefully be over the next month, certainly this side of the new year, we'll get the tickets on sale and see what that looks like. We just need to figure out, how much we need to pay to be able to understand what the ticket prices and pricing need to be. So very, very exciting times for that. Alan, thank you very much for all your endeavour and hard work in the lead up to that. I know that this is the most involved you've been in convention planning in your new role. Your previous role was you could be a bit of an observer and a contributor when asked, but you weren't responsible for actually doing the majority.
I was going to say, in the past, it's been predominantly around the football, and I think Vegas was probably the biggest one for the football. But whereas this one, talking about hotels, talking about entertainment.
Yeah.
So when it all goes well, obviously it was my fault, and when it doesn't go well, I'd like to thank Brian and yourself and all the rest of it for the support. Hey Gary, do we want to share, since we'll sign the contract and we've got the room rates? Is it worthwhile sharing here?
Go ahead.
About the cost.
Yeah.
So yeah, everybody, we're going to Nashville. We're going in the middle of June. Right. It's a very busy time. Therefore, cost and a number of the hotels were a lot higher than what we wanted to pay.
Yeah.
And then with the negotiations with Brian, because Brian is the one in his role dealing with the hotels and the experience with the conventions, he's managed to get a room rate in Nashville for less than $200 a night, which is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
So having that room rate for the nights that we're going to be there, the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and I think in the contract, Gary, visitors want to stay there a little bit before that and after it,
Yeah,
they're said they're going to honour that room rate as well. So for those of us coming from afar who might want to stay in Nashville a little bit longer or come a little bit earlier, they're going to honour that room rate as well. So
exactly.
yeah, great work with Brian getting us to that point.
Definitely.
So, I mean, as you touched on, when people see the hotel and the rooftop bar and the amenities round about it, it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Yeah, $199, and then there'll be some taxis and fees and such like that on that. But to get it, as Alan says, there under the 200 is absolutely incredible. And we also do have a 17% discount on alcohol on the property, which has been negotiated in, which was a nice wee pleasant surprise because we thought it was 15 in the beginning. So yeah, that's get on it, folks. Once we get there, as I say, we'll continue to monitor that from our side in conjunction with the hotel. If it looks like it's going to be super busy, we can increase that. If it's kind of slow in the beginning, then we've committed something that's not going to put us in a position that we were in for Kissimmee when we thought it was going to be a lot larger, and it ended up being incredibly not so large in terms of that very poor English. I know. Any last thoughts on the convention before I move on to the communication section, Alan?
I think just a big thank you to everybody who helped complete the survey, right? Because we've all done, and this is kind of like the HR speech, we've all done surveys and we complete a survey and we don't hear anything about it, or people who listen to the survey don't do anything about the information that we give. That certainly wasn't the case here. Right, so we had hundreds of people that gave us survey information, and as a result of that survey information, right, we couldn't please all the people all the time. We're just trying to please most of the people most of the time.
Yeah.
But I think we've taken on board the key points that were raised and communicated in the survey, hence the reason for the destination, hence the reason for doing something a little bit differently, hence the reason for negotiating really hard for the room prices, because there's a number of hotels in the Nashville area within really walking distance that are 300, close to 400 a night.
Yeah.
So getting that type of hotel within that area, within that time scale. Thanks to everybody for the information you provided in the survey. I'm sure we'll be doing more of them.
Yeah.
Because the good information that we've got, we're using, and so keep giving us that information. It'll help the association going forward.
100%, absolutely. Yeah, it wasn't just a make work exercise, and we've genuinely listened, and hopefully that'll be reflected in an absolutely astounding event next year. Okay, on to the communication section. There was no Gers guide. I looked just before we started recording, so you're going to get a Gaz guide for this week. I imagine today will be the Rangers women's team review from their Old Firm victory on Friday night, 3-2. Quite an entertaining game, it looked like as well, and that's given them an opportunity to climb up the table a wee bit, arrest the fall, which has been this last month or two, and they're now in fourth spot. But they're only 1 win away from second spot. Unfortunately, I think it's 9 points behind Glasgow City right now, and that's a lot in that league. It's very, very difficult for teams like Glasgow City with the consistency that they have, especially this season, to lose that amount of points. But you live in hope, and we'll see what happens over the next wee while. But interestingly, from a women's team perspective, if you take away the cup game, in the last 5 games they have won 2 and been beat 3 times as well. So it's just not championship winning form, but you never know. It's a long season, and I guess we say the same for the men's team as well. I did mention briefly last week that the Sky Sports Cup semi-final draw was taking place on the Tuesday, and they have been drawn against that mob again, and I think it's February sometime, the semi-final there, so we'll see what that looks like. Tomorrow, I imagine there will be a loan review. On Wednesday, I'm going to put my opinion out there and say I think there'll be an international review of what happened last week. Thursday, probably not a lot. Friday, there'll be the press conference for the Livingston game. Saturday's the Livingston game. And Sunday, the Rangers women's team are away to Motherwell, 4 p.m. UK kickoff time. Now, from a communication perspective, you've probably seen on, I think it was Saturday, that an interview dropped from Rangers with Kevin Thelwell. and I was excited to see it. You know, we have our frustrations with the club where we're not hearing from the people that we want to hear from. You know, all we ever heard from was Russell Martin, and then when he got let go, I think there was maybe one preliminary interview with Kevin Thelwell, and then we didn't really hear too much about him. Then we heard them when Danny Rule came in, and other than that, they did an interview on the weekend. I have to say, not a lot in the interview in terms of content, some backroom staff changes and or modifications, I should say, not changes. Changes sometimes has a connotation that people are leaving and other people are replacing them, and it's more so they're adding to the team in terms of the structure of the academies and whatnot. And I can see why the club, from a communication strategy perspective, would put that one out there during the international break. There just wasn't really a whole lot of content for me to explain from Patrick and Kevin's perspective what's going to change for the better. You know, some incremental positions being filled might be their explanation of said changes, and I guess that's what it is. And you know what? And I say this from a position of, I know that you met Kevin Thelwell when you were back there in August, Alan. I didn't see too much in that interview that made me warm to him as a person either. I don't know if it was intended as a puff piece for him. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not disappointed with the interview. I didn't really learn too much. If it's the first of a series of interviews that are coming out just to kind of get us to know them a wee bit more, then that's fair enough. I don't dislike the guy at all. I just didn't really learn a whole bunch about him or about what his philosophy and plans to change things for the better are. Did you get a chance to see that interview?
Yeah, I just watched it. Really not this morning.
Yeah.
I think it was 14 minutes on YouTube. I managed to see it. And I must, like to your point, I did meet him when I'm back home. Uh, I met his wife, I met Dan Purdy, and I was really interested in seeing that interview and seeing what was going to come across. One of the things that came across during the interview that I did pick up was the fact that they won't sign, or we won't sign any players without the managers or the head coaches buying.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's been a lot of press over the past few months that might not have been the case in the past. So we'll never know if that is the case or it's not the case. But that jumped out to me during the interview, that the fact he actually mentioned that, and maybe he mentioned it because there is a lot of noise around who's involved with signing the players and other managers getting any buy-in to the players that we're signing. But I thought what else I took from it was the size of the role that he's got, as well as the people coming in to support. Because, like, director of football, like, it's for the whole football club. The women's team comes under that as well. A lot of stuff to do with analysis, and it was just astounding to me the amount of roles that are coming in under that role. And maybe we're not comparing them with any other football team. Or, sorry, I should really compare them with the football team, because I had a conversation with Brian on this not that long ago. The Spurs just recently hired a new director of football, and there was a gentleman sitting beside the new director of football, and then when it came up, he was also the director of football. So Spurs actually have two directors of football,
Oh,
right? And I'm not saying that we should be following Spurs' model, but there's an example for some people thinking that we shouldn't even have a director of football. And then there's teams in the English Premier League who are playing in the Champions League who have got two directors of football on the size of the role. I thought one of the directors of football was introducing his successor until I seen the job title come up on the screen. It must be the HR and me. So
yeah.
they've got actually two directors of football. So I think understanding the structure from the business model and who reports to who and who's doing what, I think is really interesting. And I'm probably looking at it from an HR perspective.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was today. There wasn't a lot of big news. It was good to see him getting interviewed. But I think what's some of the big things we'll learn? I think there's going to be new staff joining Danny's team. that was quite clear. And I'm sure there'll be players go back from loans. I think there'll be players who may leave us in the January window, and I still think there'll be. I can't remember the phrase that you used, but we'll be very active in the window again. But that could mean anything.
Yeah, I thought when he talked about the transfers specifically, I wondered if that was I'm going to put all the blame for all these players on Russell Martin because we ran everything past him when he was there, and he said yes. There's different ways to take it, I suppose, and I'll be as generous as I possibly can, but the proof is in the pudding, and his pudding hasn't been tasting so great since he joined. So I guess we need to see what that looks like as we go forward. Another thing that I did notice on the Rangers website was an article from last week regarding the fan roundtable sessions and the sessions that they held that are out with the official fans or the fans advisory board are taking place just to get a cross section, kind of similar to what we talked about earlier there in terms of the survey, to get as much information from the wider fan base as they possibly can. And the sessions that they had thus far included the fan advisory board, of course, the Rangers Supporters Association, the Union Bears, the Copeland Collective, the Oceania Rangers Supporters Association, ORSA, the European Rangers Supporters Association, ERSA, Disability Matters, and Ibrox Pride. So basically, every single association you can almost imagine out there other than NARSA was there. So it's kind of interesting to me. And the thing I'd said to you and Brian at one point, Alan, was when I was on the official fans board 10 or 11 years ago, I was able to dial into every meeting through, at the time it was WebEx. And here we are 11 years later, and we don't have a seat at the table because we're not specifically in the room there. That's nowhere near good enough whatsoever for the largest fan group outside of the UK. So hopefully that's something that we'll get organised and get a seat at that table when we can. It's a great idea to be able to do it. It's very well supported by the club. Greg Mailer seems to really be going for this sort of thing, and why would you not when you've got all that information from stakeholders that you can join? But NARSA absolutely needs a seat at the table there, Alan.
I would definitely. You make a really good point. I was actually invited to that meeting, and I was really disappointed that because I couldn't be in Scotland or be in that room at the same time, there wasn't an opportunity to dial in. So if they're going to pay for our expenses to go across, that might be a different ballgame. But I'm, I'm not sure if we could take the whole executive across to Scotland and Rangers down. But yeah, you're right. I just found it was really disheartening. I was really pleased to get an invite, first of all,
Yeah.
right, when I seen who was all going to be there. But then I'm the same, pleased to get the invite, but then really disappointed to say, well, unless you're back in Scotland sitting in a room, you're not going to be able to participate.
Yeah.
But yeah, certainly hope that that's going to be a change going forward. There are plenty of opportunities to dial in via Teams, via Zoom, via whatever reason that you want. Right? They can put us on mute, they can switch our cameras off, right? Unmute us when they want us to speak. There's other ways they can do it.
Yeah. I guess there might have been a reason, but technology 100% should not be that reason, not in this day and age, especially post-COVID. So, in other news, there was an article on the Rangers website detailing John Spiers from the club, who is the Disability Access Officer, and I thought it was such a brilliant video just to see some of the brilliant work that goes on from a fan engagement and fan support perspective, and it goes through some match day stuff. It goes through some of the disabled fans' experiences and John's interaction with them. If you get a chance to check it out, please do that. It's free on the website, or you can go find it on YouTube as well. It's like 4 or 5 minutes. I can't remember exactly how long it was. Actually, maybe even a wee bit longer. But a brilliant watch, an absolutely brilliant watch. Just as a follow-up, go ahead.
Hey, Jack, could I say something about it? Because I know we have not spoken about this in advance.
Yeah.
Right? And then when you were talking about people that I met when I was back, I actually met him when I was back.
Oh, brilliant.
So he's in the same office as Greg Marshall.
Right.
So Greg Marshall and I had a meeting with Greg Mailer in the next again room, and I actually took my daughter Mia to Edinburgh, so she wasn't going to sit in the room with Greg Miller and Greg Marshall because her name's no Dread, so she wasn't allowed to. She wasn't allowed to sit in that room, but she sat in Greg Marshall's office. And when we were sitting in the office, the two Gregs and I, we were talking about fan engagement and how we can improve things going forward. I could hear all this laughing and joking next door, and I'm like, walked in, and he was actually spending time with my daughter, right? And for anyone who's met my daughter with some special needs, but I didn't know what the reason behind the conversation was. So he was actually interviewing my daughter about going to sporting events in America and was about the disabled access and all that sort of stuff. And it wasn't until I walked into the room I realised who he was.
Yeah.
So to your point, I actually watched that video as well on YouTube. And you're right, it was phenomenal.
Yeah.
I thought he came across really well. And he made the comment over he had a passion for disability awareness, and he's a Rangers supporter. And I think it was his brother that went, I'm not going to spoil the whole interview, but I think his brother said, there's a job being written specially for you.
Yeah.
You've got passion for disability awareness, you're a Rangers supporter, and you could see the passion in his eyes and in his voice. And I thought it was really cool because I wasn't aware of all the stuff that they do there.
Yeah.
And seeing the folks all sitting together behind the goals, it was really good.
Yeah, it's fabulous. Some of the stuff the club are doing is absolutely excellent. And you're right, we don't get to see what the inner workings are. We don't get to see the inner workings of any organisation truly until you're there, until you're somewhat involved in it. But brilliant stuff from John there. So please do go check that out. I did interview Stevie Jukes from St. Phoenix last week to talk about the work they're doing with the Happy Place workshop and also their forthcoming tour. Stevie Jukes obviously doing a lot of work with Rangers right now, was involved in the launch of the 5th or 6th or 7th kit of the season. I can't remember the number. And I'm going to get that. I've got it all packaged up. I think I'll put that one out maybe on Thursday this week. I'm going to put it out on the NARSA network and my own network as well, because it is the interviews I do on my own business are called The Best You. It's all about self-development, self-education, things like that, and it really fits for both. So I'll try and get that out on Thursday if I can. Just another reminder to please do subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you haven't already, please do ask your friends or neighbours or colleagues or your exes new boyfriends or girlfriends or wives if they could subscribe as well. That really helps us out with our ongoing marketing and sponsorship efforts, and also the same on the podcast platforms as well. If you haven't left us a rating there and you haven't actually subscribed to our podcast, please do that there as well. Every little bit helps. Please absolutely do that. That will do it for this week. A wee bit of a longer one this week because it's always a wee bit longer when Alan McWatt is involved in the conversation. But Alan, thank you very, very much for taking the time to join me today. I've really thoroughly enjoyed this conversation.
Thanks very much, Gary, and thanks very much to everybody who's listening. And as Gary said, please share, help us increase our membership.
100%. Yeah, to echo that, thank you very, very much for taking the time to listen. Please do share it with whomever you think might enjoy it. Big week for us this week in action in the league. An opportunity to get 4 in a row in the league. We've got some really winnable games between now and the end of the month. Let's just keep this going. Follow.